السلام عليكم. فوزي الامين، اهلا وسهلا.
اهلا حسين.
I'm going to mute myself here. How do I mute myself?
Now it's
recording. Get started?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, it gives me great pleasure to welcome everybody to this annual event of extreme importance, of absolute importance. The late, great Sayyid Khomeini, Imam al-Khomeini, constituted this day as Yom al-Quds, the day of the Quds. And sorry, I think we've lost everybody. No, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, obviously the name really does make all the connotation, all the emphasis that we need to think about. This day is specific, especially in the Islamic calendar, that we as a community and we as individuals participate and think about and commemorate everything to do with Palestine, everything to do with the people of Palestine, and most importantly, in ridding the great people of Palestine of that awful cancer that has befallen them in the Zionist state of Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to see such a varied group connecting with us today, and I understand that we have about 10 speakers who will address the rest of us, and I'm certainly looking forward to hearing all of the wonderful speeches. Now, for everybody that is going to speak today, can I please respectfully ask that you maintain the 2-minute deadline that you have. Zoom only allows us to participate for 40 minutes, and if we speak for longer than that, then we risk missing out on hearing one of the other speakers. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please try to constrain your contribution to the 2-minute mark. Ladies and gentlemen, to start this off, I was thinking of asking everybody to perhaps take a minute or two once you're done to think about this problem in a more definitive manner. A lot of us are very much into thinking about the Palestinian problem in a very emotional manner, in a manner that, because of our linkages to the Palestinian issue. But I've been reading some incredible books written by some rather spectacular authors, most namely of which is Professor Edward Said, the late Professor Edward Said, who died in 2003, who wrote some incredibly profound works on how to address the issue of Palestine. Most importantly, about citing the figures and naming the names and being equipped with all of the information that we're debating with the broad community. And we are debating against those who would stand against the Palestinians. We are equipped with the correct information to be able to answer them, not just in that emotional context, but also in that academic and citing the figures so that our arguments stack up. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's probably my contribution to this. I thank you also very much for joining us tonight. Be ready for a cavalcade of great speakers that will come out and address us. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Haj Abu Ali Dirani, Hussein Dirani, to come and be our first speaker for tonight. And you'll have to forgive us, he's actually here in the room, so we're going to do the quick shuffle and he'll get into the seat. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير. صدق الله العلي العظيم. الإخوة والأخوات الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أرحب بكم جميعا في هذا اللقاء الأول من نوعه عبر هذا التطبيق، بعد أن حرمتنا جائحة الكورونا من اللقاء السنوي المباشر الذي كنا نقيمه سنويا إحياء ليوم القدس العالمي في آخر جمعة من شهر رمضان المبارك. يوم القدس العالمي الذي أعلنه الإمام الراحل السيد روح الله الموسوي الخميني القدس سر شريف يوما للقدس وفلسطين، ويوم للمستضعفين في الأرض، ويوم لنصرة المظلومين، ويوم لرفض الهيمنة والغطرسة الأمريكية الصهيونية على العالم العربي والإسلامي. لذلك نحن اليوم نجتمع في رحاب هذه الذكرى لنؤكد على أهمية إحياء هذه المناسبة، والتي أطلق عليها هذا العام شعار القدس درب الشهداء، لنعبر عن استنكارنا الشديد للعدوان الإسرائيلي الصهيوني المتواصل منذ أكثر من 72 عاما على فلسطين العربية والإسلامية شعبا ومقدسات، وتشريد الشعب الفلسطيني في الشتات وحرمانه من حق العودة إلى أرضه ووطنه ومقدساته، ولنعبر عن رفضنا القاطع لكل أشكال التطبيع مع هذا الكيان الصهيوني الغاصب، والذي يمارسه زعماء الدول العربية الذين يهرولون للتطبيع معه ولا يكتفون بذلك، بل يذهبون لدعمه ماديا ومعنويا وسياسيا وإعلاميا، حتى بلغوا ذروة الحقارة والعمالة والانبطاح، كل ذلك على حساب دماء مئات الآلاف من الشهداء الأبرار الذين ارتقوا في سبيل تحرير أرض فلسطين ومقدساته. كما إننا في هذه العجالة نعبر عن رفضنا لصفقة العار الأمريكية التي تستهدف تصفية القضية الفلسطينية العادلة. أملنا بتحرير فلسطين والمقدسات بسواعد أبطال الشعب الفلسطيني ومقاومته المشروعة المدعومة من جميع أحرار وشرفاء هذا العالم، من إيران ولبنان والعراق وسوريا واليمن والبحرين، ومن كل حر وشريف هذا العالم. ولا نستطيع أن ننهي كلمتنا قبل أن نذكر شهيد القدس وفلسطين، الشهيد القائد القاسم سليماني رضوان الله تعالى عليه، الذي كانت حياته القدس وشهادته فلسطين وجنته الأقصى ومحرابه ساحة الجهاد. الوقت لا يسمح لنا أكثر من ذلك، لنفسح المجال أمام الضيوف المتحدثين الكرام، ونرجو الالتزام بالوقت ليتثنى للمتحدثين المشاركة في هذه المناسبة التاريخية الخالدة. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Well, thank you very much, Haj. That was another profound speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to push the program right along, and I'm going to now invite Sheikh Nami Farhad to come and join us and give us his take. Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, respected brothers and sisters. And thank you for attending tonight online. We joined together to commemorate Quds Day, a day that was established by our late Imam, Ruhullah al-Khumaini, may Allah bless his soul. A day to stand in support with the oppressed people, regardless of their religion or background. And a day to remind us that the center of our movement is Palestine. And the center of the movement should stay Palestine. Brother Talal started his discussion, or started the program, with a very important point, speaking about how to address this topic of Palestine. You see, people relate to Quds Day through different movements. Some of them concentrate on Palestine. Some of them show support to oppressed people in Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Iran, Lebanon, and so on, or all the way to Venezuela if Dr. Tim is here. We will show support. You can show support to any oppressed person in this world. Tonight, briefly, I want to show support to a group that we don't usually speak about. And I want you to be patient and to hear me out. Quickly, I mention it. I want to show support to Jewish people on the Quds Day. Now, maybe you think that what happened to this guy? Did the virus hit him in the head or something? Why do I want to show support? Briefly, I say, if we go back by time, 72 years ago, before the establishment of the Zionist regime, you see that the Jewish people lived in peace alongside Muslims and Christians in the region, in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, in Egypt, and so on. They had very strong communities. They built their own schools, their own places of worship. They were very successful businessmen, and they had very strong relations with their neighbors who belonged to the different Abrahamic religions.
Now, when the arrogant powers decided to build a military base for them in the region, they found the Druze the best group to use, especially those who've been oppressed in Europe for years due to the politics that was taking place there. So they used the Jewish people to establish a military base for them. However, the European Jews were not enough to establish a state. That's why they needed more citizens for the Zionist regime. When we read certain books in history, we find that most of the Arab Jews refused to move to Palestine, to the Zionist regime. And here comes the interesting point. To show the evil of politics, and especially those in authority. When we view or read certain books or listen to certain documentaries, we'll see how some Arab governments, especially in Iraq and Egypt, how they forced the Jewish community to leave the countries. They stopped their businesses. They took away their money and properties and forced them to leave the country. Many of them left to the West and some left to Palestine, to the Zionist regime. That's why today when we speak about Quds Day, we should not look at it as a Muslim event. It's an event to stand with the oppressed people, including the Jewish people who were oppressed in history. And when we speak about a deal of a century, especially after we hear the latest speeches from our leaders, that gives us hope of a better future, of removing this cancer from the nation and establishing a Palestinian country for all the people to live in peace there. We should always emphasize on the fact that we don't want to move from an extreme Zionist Jewish state to an extreme Wahhabi Islamic state. We call for Palestine to be a place for all people to live in peace. Let it be the Jewish, the Christians, Muslims, or even secular people. This is the approach that I think is important for us to take, especially in the West. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, I think we can all very much safely say that we weren't expecting that, although that isn't actually true. That's exactly something that I would expect from Sheikh Nami Farhat, and he's absolutely right in his analysis, and I applaud him for it, and alhamdulillah. Ladies and gentlemen, really now I'd like to invite one of my favorite speakers, somebody who has certainly made his life's work to cite the figures and name the names, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Professor Tim Anderson. Now, Tim, if you could please unmute yourself there, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Tom. Greetings, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for coming along and participating tonight in this invaluable cause. Yes, I just want to say a few things about the prospects for a liberated Palestine, because I believe that in a struggle as long and as difficult as this, it's easy for people to be discouraged and to feel things are all too hard. But I have done some analysis, which I published in an article a while ago, where I tried to put the forces on both sides, that is, say, the advantages the enemy has and the advantages the resistance has. And I'd just like to share them with you now. The enemy, of course, occupies the entirety of geographical Palestine these days, and it takes that as a great strength. It has strong foreign supporters that support it with weapons, economically, in media, in propaganda wars, even in cultural wars with movies and so on. There's a fanatical Zionist ideology which creates some cohesion amongst the colonists, not all of them, but a large majority of them. And there's division amongst the Palestinian parties, amongst the resistance. That's a weakness, and it helps the enemy. But on the other side, what do we have? We have a constant resistance culture, the steadfastness, the everyday steadfastness that means that the majority of people in occupied Palestine are Palestinian people these days, and the active resistance, which is on a daily basis in Palestine. There is a growing legitimacy of the Palestinian cause, not least because of the exposure of apartheid Israel internationally. And this is critical. It's such a vulnerable Achilles heel for the colonists, that the more that the apartheid system is exposed as and recognized as an apartheid system, the less legitimacy they have internationally, because apartheid is a crime against humanity and can't be contemplated by the international community. There's demoralization of their allies, including the liberal Jewish community internationally, that would like the idea, many of them would like the idea of a kinder, friendlier sort of Israel, but when they realize that's not possible, they desert and join the ranks of the anti-Zionists. And of course, the exposure of Zionist crimes is important to alienate those supporters. And finally, there's the strong regional states which are under attack, constant attack: Iran, Syria, Lebanon, all of the allies of the resistance under attack to prevent them coming together and supporting the liberation of Palestine. And that's why I think the resistance combined with the international delegitimizing campaign of the colony in Palestine is what will finally cause, and I don't believe it will take more than a decade to bring about the dismantling of this regime. So that's my thoughts. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Tim. That was a brilliant analysis as always. Ladies and gentlemen, moving right along now, I'd like to invite Sayyid Hassan Murtada to speak for the next couple of minutes.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم. بمناسبة ذكرى يوم القدس العالمي الذي دعا له الراحل آية الله الخميني قدس سره، نجدد العهد لسماحة السيد القائد أن على طريق القدس سائرون يدا بيد مع كل شرفاء العالم وأحرار، مع كل شرفاء الأمة وأحرار العالم المؤمنين بالحق ضد الباطل، متمثلا بالكيان الصهيوني وعملائه المتصهينين، وإزالة هذا الكيان الغاصب وتحرير القدس الشريف والثروات العربية. وإعلان القدس العاصمة الأبدية لفلسطين. تحية إلى كل المجاهدين من أجل فلسطين وتحرير القدس، رحم الله الشهداء، وتحية لعوائل الشهداء، وتحية إلى الجرحى، والتحية إلى الأسرى في زنازين العدو. ندعو الله في شهر رمضان القادم أن تكون رايات النصر خفاقة فوق مآذن وكنائس القدس، ودمتم أحرارا، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم.
Thank you so much, Sayyid Hassan. Ladies and gentlemen, it really does give me great pleasure now to introduce another great man of God that we have in our community, although albeit from another spectrum. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Father Dave Smith to address us and give us his thoughts.
Okay, I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me, Tom?
Yes, I can. I can hear
Tom,
you.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, sisters, brothers. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Patria, Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. It is a great pleasure to be with you. Thank you to the speakers so far. It's inspiring. Okay, I can't understand the Arabic, but I know it's beautiful. And thank you to Tim for your succinct analysis and your vision of hope. And thank you to my brother Sheikh, who actually said everything that I wanted to say, but said it better than I could have said it. Thank you for speaking out on behalf of the Jewish people, on behalf of Christians, on behalf of all of us. That's my simple message. It will take less than 2 minutes. Palestine is not a tribal issue. I can understand why on AlQuds Day in particular, it seems it is an Islamic issue because of the brave words of Ayatollah Khamenei all those years ago. But ultimately, the suffering of the Palestinian people is not an Islamic issue, or a Christian issue, or a Jewish issue. It's a human issue. It's not even a religious issue. It's a human issue, and we're going to need to work together. we're going to need to work together if we're going to beat this. The forces of oppression, not just in Palestine. You see, I'm wearing my Syrian army fatigues today on top of my clergy outfit. The forces of oppression that look to destroy people around the world are strong, but together, by the grace of God, we're stronger. And by the grace of God, we will see true liberation and freedom. I do believe that sincerely. Inshallah, it will be soon. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. God bless you all.
Thank you.
God bless you, Dave. Thank you so much for your participation and continued support.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, brother.
We truly look forward to hearing from you every single time. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, my friend.
God bless you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, now moving right along, I'd like to invite a great Lebanese media activist. Can I please invite Miriam Doylabi to speak with us now?
She's not on.
She's not on?
Okay, ask for the...
She is on, Miriam's on.
Yeah,
But she's got a video off and microphone off.
Yeah, just, okay, ask Fawzi Amin to speak for 2 minutes.
Okay. It looks like we're having a bit of a connection issue with Miriam, so can I please invite Fawzi Amin, please, to speak to us now for 2 minutes.
Haj Fawzi, are you online? Haj Fawzi.
Okay, so I think we'll just move along now. Who do we have?
Okay, Khalid Ghannam is not there. Well, look, because some of the guests not here, we might ask Hennadi Asud. She's online. She can speak for a few minutes. Mr. Hennadi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
I am online.
Yeah. You can speak for a couple of minutes, Sister Hennadi.
Well, I'll definitely not miss this opportunity to speak and stand in solidarity with the Palestinian and for humanity, just like what Father Dave said. We are here for a good cause. We are against the oppressors. Sorry, is anybody interrupting? No?
Yes, no, we're listening. We're listening.
Is it, Mr. Fawzi Amin wants to speak now?
That's okay. Continue. Yeah, we'll ask Mr. Fawzi to speak in a moment.
Yeah, so I'm always with the Palestinian. I'm always standing in solidarity with all the oppressed against the oppressors. We just hope there's the green light at the end of the tunnel that we could see. Hopefully, as Sayyid Hassan said, that would love to be there and pray in the Quds, hopefully. And he can see it. If we can see it, we will be there soon, inshallah. But I say hello to everybody, and I'll pass it on to Mr. Fawzi Amin now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hennadi. Mr. Fawzi Amin.
Yeah. الأخوات والإخوة السلام عليكم. You hear me?
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
فلسطين قبلة الأحرار. تحية عربية، تحية إلى فلسطين وقبلتنا القدس الشريف، والتي نقول لها جاورتي قدسنا قبل أن تجاوري ناظرينا. وفي عيد المقاومة والتحرير ومن عاصمة التحرير بنت جبيل جارتك التي سحقت بني صهيون، نخاطبك ونقول لك اطمئني، كيف لك أن تطلقي وأنت جارة جنوبنا الذي كرسته المقاومة محجة لأهل الحق ومقبرة لأهل الباطل، وقد خط ملامح عزته رجال ما عاهدوا الله، فكان النصر نصر من عند الله وقائد هو نصر الله. وأنتم يا كيان الوهن دنستم الشريف وهدمتم يا بني صهيون منازلها وسفكتم دماء أولادها. ويبدو أن حلفاءكم من العربان والتكفيريين لم يخبروكم عن معاهدات جديدة لقناها لهم في قلب العروبة النابض، ونقول لكم ستهزمون وسنحرر القدس وكامل فلسطين، وإنه الوعد وإن وعد الله حق، والقدس ستطهو لكم ثم صهيون وتلقنكم فروض الهزيمة، وسننتزع القدس من براثنكم ولن ننسى، والنصر قادم. والسلام عليكم وشكرا.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Haj Fawzi. I'm just going to change it up a little bit now for the time being. Dr. Tim and Father Dave, can I ask you both to reconnect for a second?
No, years ago.
I'm with you.
I went to
Thank you,
Parkland
Father.
Market.
And Dr. Tim,
I'm
you
connected.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I've got also with me Sheikh Nami Farhad. And what I'd really like to do now is just have a very basic question for the three of you, and I'd like to hear maybe your input, your input and analysis on what you think is happening currently in Palestine. Where are we now in terms of Palestine, and has anything changed?
It was the first time ever I'd seen, like, you know, the
over the last couple of years? It shows us something.
He had a whole heap
So can I
There's
ask
a lot of background noise here.
of
Ask other
Sorry,
people
I'll just
to
stop
turn
there
off
for a
their
sec.
mics because I'm hearing a lot of other voices.
Can I ask everybody to just mute their microphone, except for the people that I've invited on, please?
Sorry, guys. Just 2 minutes.
Haj Fawzi, can I ask you to mute your...
Dave.
Unmute. Right, so unmute.
to
Okay, can I ask now Father Dave and Tim to please unmute their...
Yep, I'm unmuted, brother.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so once again, the question is, what is the light at the end of the tunnel? Where are we at now compared to the past, and are we making any progress now with the issue of Palestine? Dr. Tim, can I ask you to start?
Shall I start then? I think that there's been huge distractions in the region with the pandemic and also with the war.
Yes.
The multiple wars, and that has detracted from the process going on in Palestine, where the Trump regime has really tried to rescue the more obvious exposure of the regime as an apartheid regime by trying to put back on track the idea of two states. In some respects, the two states illusion is the veneer, you know, the gossamer veneer between the current perception and the destruction of the Zionist regime, because there's a couple of Zionist leaders that made this point. As soon as they're into an anti-apartheid South African style campaign, Israel is finished because its international legitimacy disappears completely. So if you remember what's the Trump's son-in-law's name, Jared Kushner, the real estate agent, last year his deal of the century was all about some bribes, basically, to local regimes. And then you notice that earlier this year, before the pandemic struck, the Trump regime was trying to put back on track what was called a Bantustan homeland alternative in South Africa in the 80s, where they have little pockets of, you know, local government around there, and that represents the majority of the people of the whole region.
So is this now just a waiting game, Professor? Are we just waiting now for Trump to go, or?
No, I think this is just a move that the Trump regime has made to try and resurrect, to try and keep that veil up there that this is not an apartheid regime. Of course, all of us here know it's an apartheid regime, But the issue is, how are they playing that out for the Europeans, for the liberal Jews, for all of the other people? Because as soon as it's recognized as an apartheid regime, the Zionists, who is it? Ehud Barak, the other one, who was the one that invaded Lebanon, they said, we're finished as soon as they realize that there is no two states here. The problem is that the Palestinian Authority has also kept that illusion going, you know, and only just in recent times, I think, you know, the president has said no more deals with Israel. Well, I think for us in the international sphere, that's the key thing. There's resistance and there's a legitimacy debate in the external sphere. And the more that we can add pressure to recognizing this is an apartheid state and there is no real two-state option there, unfortunately, as I said, the weakness is that there is still division amongst the Palestinian factions over this question.
Right. Thank you, Doctor. I'm going to ask now Sheikh Nami to give us his contribution on where do you think we're going? I mean, has the pandemic completely halted now any progress with the Palestinian issue?
If we go back to the beginning of the Arab Spring and the war in Syria, we see how due to the sectarian war and the hate that existed between groups, people forgot about Palestine. Many people about Palestine. And we started witnessing some enmity from different groups and even some of the Shia against the Palestinians. But I believe today, after 10 years of the beginning of the war in Syria, we live in a positive time, where Palestinians themselves, they found out that the Muslim Brotherhood campaign failed and the project in the region failed. Also, they found out that they can't rely on the West anymore. The president, the Palestinian president himself said, we can't take the Americans in what they say after the deal of the century. So it is a positive time, although we were betrayed from many directions in the past from different groups. But today, the Palestinians are joined together in refusing the deal of the century, in refusing the sectarian war that took place. And we see that most of people are uniting together again and taking Palestine as the center. What Dr. Tim mentioned is very important. But unfortunately, we'll still find some Palestinians who call for the two-state solution. And this is something, although it sounds good, but it can't be applied on a practical level. The best solution in the future, and this is what I mentioned in my speech, when we hear our leader, Sayyid Hassan, they give us hope in saying that it's very much possible to remove this cancer from the nation in the near future and establish one Palestinian state for all the people to live there in peace.
Father Dave, just a very quick point. I'd like for you to talk about, because I know that you have a great linkage in activism here in Sydney, and you seem to cross a lot of bridges. I'm just wondering, how do you see the Palestinian cause now reflected in other groups of communities? So, for example, the university community. Are we still seeing Palestine as being the forefront issue?
That's a good question, brother. I'm not sure with the university community. I mean, again, the Sheikh's put everything so beautifully, I think, and Tim. I know within the Christian community, there's a broad coalition of support for Palestine that I believe is growing, and I trust it will continue to grow. As I say, I think we need to work together. The point Tim makes is very important. If there's going to be a full annexation of the West Bank, it really only leaves the government of Israel with the two choices, which is to give equal rights to Palestinian people or to move into a very full and open apartheid, which will not be accepted by the rest of the world. So if this annexation is really going to happen, the end is near. I trust that's the case, but we need to get back on the streets. We need to stop being suppressed by these stupid lockdown, whether you see it as a conspiracy or whether you see it coming out of genuine concern, just a gift to power-hungry politicians. We've got to be able to get back on the street and have our voices heard, you know, and do so together in unity.
Brilliant, Dave. Thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to move the program on a little bit now. I'd like to invite, please, Sayyid Rضوي, Abu Qasim Rضوي, to please join us and give us his contribution. Sydney, are you there?
Where's the Sayyid?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, I do start with the recitation of 2 verses from the Quran. And inshallah, just few sentences and I complete my word. So, there are the 2 consecutive verses from Surah Al-Qasas, chapter 28, verse number 4 and 5. And here, the situation of the Palestine is like that time, at the time of the Pharaoh. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He promised the Bani Israel, so He will transfer the power to the oppressed people. And inshallah, very soon it will happen and countdown is started. Inna fir'auna ala fil ard wa ja'ala ahla ashiyan yastadhifu ta'ifatan minhum yuzabbih abna'ahum wa yastahyi nisa'ahum innahu kana min al-mufsidin. Indeed, Pharaoh exalted himself in the land and made its people into fractions. What Israel is doing in the Arab region, they divided Muslims and the Arab into groups, oppressing a sector among them, slaughtering their newborn sons and keeping their families alive. Indeed, he was of the corruptors. Then there was the promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلُهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلُهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. And we wanted to confirm favor upon those who were oppressed in the land and make them leaders and make them inheritors. And in 1948, Israel, they occupied the Palestine. Since then, thousands of the people, they were killed by them. There is a famous saying that 1 person's death is tragedy, but the death of 100 people is just a statistic. And this is what we see today in the case of Palestine, where thousands of people were killed and millions are displaced from their own homes since 1948. Do you ever think about the death of the person as on their families, on their children, on their friends? Now, after the 1979, after the victory of the revolution, Imam Khomeini, just within the 6th month, because the February he got the victory, in August he declared that, see, last Friday of the month of Ramadan, which is the greatest congregation among the Muslim Ummah, and he called, come together, be united, raise your voice against the oppressors. Reason is that because there is a hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu salam in his last will through the Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein to everyone, Kunu lil mazlumi awna wa lil zalimi khasma. Be helper of the oppressed and be opposer of the oppressor. Therefore, today we are here. Of course, this year we cannot organize the rally. We cannot go on the street. But Alhamdulillah, because this is the 6th event where I'm talking about the Palestine. So that means the issue of the Palestine, it became internationalized. Today, Alhamdulillah, not only I heard from the Muslim scholars, but the Christian, the Jews, and they all are saying they are against the oppressors. And this is the time, because see, Israel, they had the division, they had the differences, and they became weaker. And this is the time when we become strong with our unity. And inshallah, very soon we are saying that, as Rahbar he said, inshallah, we are going to pray our namaz and salah inside the Baitul Maqdis, inshallah. We are praying for the liberty and freedom of Palestine. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sayyid, can I ask you to maybe just make a few comments, just a few quick comments with respect to the Islamic obligation on all of us in relation to Palestine, in relation to AlQuds Day?
Yeah. See, Islamically, of course, see, as I mentioned, see, this is compulsory and wajib, not only the issue of the Muslim, whoever is oppressed, because see, Islam has given the one idea: be the helper of the oppressed one and be the opposer of the oppressors. Therefore, the people of the Palestine, they are the oppressed people, irrespective of any religion, any color, any part of the world. If that oppression with the Christians, we are with them. If this operation is against the Yahud, we are with them. Because see, we are against the oppressors. We learn from the Karbala. And the freedom of that Palestine, it will be the complete. Because see, if you remember in 1994, Nelson Mandela, when he got the victory, he said, see, we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestine. So, alhamdulillah, slowly, oppressed people, they are getting success over the oppressors.
Alhamdulillah. Sheikh Nami, if I can throw back to you for a second, how are you seeing the participation of our youth, and especially the youth that haven't necessarily been exposed to political activism? How are you seeing their responses in terms to the issue of Palestine? Is it something that is on their minds?
I would say in the past few years, it's getting better. We see many youth trying their best in different countries to organize events to remember Quds Day and to speak about the Palestinian issue and to stand with the oppressed people around the world. And this is a positive thing to see. As I mentioned previously, that 10 years ago, we didn't see this. Many people were against even having an event for Quds. Yes. And we used to beg people to attend the Quds Day. And we had to explain to many of them, why do we stand on the side of the Palestinian people? Why do we need to have a political awareness in the community? Religion, Islam, is not limited to the spiritual aspect. There's a spiritual aspect in your relation with God, and there's a political aspect in being aware of the things that happen during this time. The movement of Imam al-Khomeini, rahmatullah alayh, teaches us how to balance between the different aspects of this religion. But alhamdulillah, today we are positive when we see the youth working, and I should thank the youth in different states in Australia, especially in Melbourne, under the supervision of the Sayyid, and in the rest of the places we are working hard. We are working hard.
Today we had the 3 occasions, 1 for the kids and 2 for the youth, mashallah.
Mashallah. May Allah reward you, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, as with every year, I think this gathering, this coming together and speaking about Palestine is something that I think is immeasurable in terms of the good that it does. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you and congratulate you. And once again, thank you for coming together to speak about what really is the issue of our time, the issue of our generation, and indeed something that was put on the very forefront when Ayatollah al-Khomeini decided to constitute this last Friday of Shahr Ramadan as the AlQuds Day. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that have joined us today, I really do thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I join with you, I'm sure.
They don't know.
Long live the resistance. God bless you all.
If we can all chant long live Palestine.
So everybody unmute yourself.
Yeah. And we have all,
I can see somebody else and it'll get stolen.
Are we ready? Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Thank you so much for your attendance. And inshallah, we will see you once again. If not by the next AlQuds Day, inshallah, we will see you before then on the streets of Sydney, protesting and calling for the victory of the Palestinians against the Zionist regime. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you, everyone. Salawat. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Inshallah.